Thank you for joining Express Employment Professionals for SAFE, Safety Advice from Express. Today you'll hear some words of caution, some words of advice, and some guidelines to follow that will help you remain safe on any job. This overview is just your first step in preparing for a productive and safe work life. You will receive more specific training at your new workplace. So everything you hear today may not be relevant to every job out there, but this basic information will be helpful and important to know in order to keep you safe from day one. SAFE will cover 6 key areas of safety training: working with, by, or around machinery, working with mobile equipment, understanding and recognizing hazardous chemicals, the types of personal protective gear needed or required, how to lift and bend safely, and lastly, some Express Employment Professionals specific rules. As an employee, you want to work in a safe environment so you can concentrate on doing your job to the best of your ability. That's why we're here, to educate you on proper safety protocol. Let's get you started. Many jobs require working with, by, or around machines. And no matter where you work, you will be trained and authorized by the client to work with their equipment, even if you already have experience with that machinery. But here are some basics to keep in mind. If you ever have a problem with a machine, no matter how small, do not try to bypass a guard or fix the problem without notifying a supervisor to ensure properly trained personnel correct the problem using lockout-tagout. Lockout-tagout requires removing all sources of energy from a system before performing any required maintenance. Basically, this means setting everything into a resting position, shutting down the power, and blocking all moving parts. This prevents unwanted shocks to the system or uninvited cogs making contact. Point of fact, not performing lockout-tagout leads to over 100 injuries a day in the United States. Avoid these injuries by remembering the 4 nevers of lockout-tagout procedure. Never place any part of your body into a piece of equipment unless lockout-tagout procedures have been performed and you're authorized to do so. Never remove safeguards to do cleaning or repairs, even if it's a minor problem. Never work on live electrical parts. Never perform lockout-tagout procedures until trained and authorized by the client on that specific equipment. While the 4 nevers will help you stay safe while using new equipment, there is one proactive step to keep in mind before handling any machinery. Always report equipment malfunctions and electrical problems like frayed cords, broken plugs, or broken switches immediately. The faster the problem is reported, the sooner it's solved. Be vigilant, be aware, and follow procedures. That's the simple path to machine safety. Now, let's focus on mobile equipment. Quite often, Express associates are asked to work around or operate mobile equipment, which includes fork trucks, scissor lifts, backhoes, loaders, and more. Many of the same rules that apply to stationary equipment also apply to working around mobile equipment. Point of fact, OSHA estimates forklifts cause about 85 fatal accidents per year. 34,900 accidents result in serious injury, and 61,800 are classified as non-serious. To ensure these accidents don't happen to you while on a job, here are the nevers for mobile equipment. Never operate mobile equipment without being specifically trained by the client. It may be a brief overview or more formal training. Either way, it needs to be done to ensure you understand how to safely operate the equipment. To operate a fork truck, you must be certified. Never walk too close to or in the path of the equipment. This not only puts you in danger, but the operator as well. Never put any body part under a moving load. This is true even if the equipment remains stationary. This can include hanging loads or loads being carried on forks, in buckets of loaders, or similar equipment. Never be a passenger on mobile equipment or ride forks to reach a higher level. And always be aware of your environment. Pay attention to the movement of the equipment at all times. Following these guidelines will help ensure your safety, which is our primary concern. While machinery has obvious dangers involved with their operation, there are other less obvious dangers that can cause just as much harm. Next, let's go over some basic practices for working with hazardous chemicals. There may come a time when you're placed at a job that requires being around hazardous chemicals. The first thing you will be told is the sorts of chemicals you'll come into contact with. Then you will be given access to the safety data sheets, which identify the chemicals. These sheets explain the hazardous components of the substances, an emergency phone number in case of an incident, how to safely handle the chemicals, and first aid measures, among other things. OSHA Hazardous Communication Standard, or HAZCOM, requires that workers have easy access to this information at all times. HAZCOM standards also require that clear and accurate labels mark the containers of the chemicals. These labels will provide hazard information and pictograms that reference the type of threat associated with that chemical. Remember, if the client has you working with hazardous chemicals, you should receive proper training on how to work with the chemicals, have access to safety data sheets, and receive training to help identify labeling within the facility. From 2003 through 2013, implementation of HAZCOM protocols resulted in an almost 25% drop in days away from work because of injuries due to contact with chemical products. These safety guidelines for industrial machinery and hazardous chemicals are helpful, but you will also need to use proper safety equipment on the job to help keep you and those around you safe. So, next up, we're going to discuss the protective equipment you may be required to use. Having the knowledge of what hazards you're working around is very important, and part of that knowledge is knowing the common personal protective equipment you need to wear around them. When you first step onto your new job, you need to look around, analyze your work environment, and learn what personal protective equipment is required. Hard hats, safety glasses, earplugs, goggles, face shields, gloves, and protective footwear are the most common PPE used. There is a possibility that the client may require you to wear a respirator. If so, the client must provide a medical assessment and a fit test to make sure the respirator is secure when worn, and then provide training on the use and care of the equipment. Now, while your client is responsible for picking out and providing the appropriate protective equipment, it is up to you to wear it. It's one of the easiest and most important ways to stay safe on the job. Point of fact, hand lacerations, crushed and broken fingers, ear scars from headwear, and arm injuries are typical jewelry-caused injuries, accounting for thousands of lost time claims per year. With this in mind, Express requires that associates wear clothes that are not torn or loose-fitting, regardless of the client's dress code. The reason is that torn and loose clothing can easily get caught in the machinery, and the same can be said for jewelry and long hair. Keep all jewelry simple and hair pulled back. Many jobs will have a jewelry policy based on the function of the worker. Follow these policies strictly. Again, it's simple, but it's safe. Now, let's talk about lifting heavy objects. All associates across all job functions will be required to lift something at some point, and some jobs will require repeated lifting. Because of this, you need to know how to properly lift objects to prevent back injury. Your back is made of vertebrae, discs, and nerves. The discs act as a cushion between the bones in order to keep the nerves safe. When you bend your back, your discs compress unevenly, and this can lead to your discs deteriorating or your nerves getting pinched. Here is what you need to know. When you bend to pick something up, the weight of the object and the weight of your upper body combine to put stress on your lower back. So, to eliminate and minimize damage to your discs, make sure you keep your back as straight as you can and use the power of your legs when lifting working items. An object's distance from your body can also affect the amount of stress on your discs. More pressure is put on your back the farther away you hold something. Reaching also puts uneven pressure on the discs. And twisting when you're handling objects puts uneven pressure on the discs, which can be harmful to both your back and knees. Use small, rotating steps when you need to turn as a safe alternative to twisting. In addition to your back, shoulders can be damaged if reaching extends above your head. Point of fact, back disorders are one of the leading causes of disability for people in their working years. These are just a few tips of the trade to keep in mind to help avoid unnecessary aches and pain. Throughout this video, we've been stressing the importance of following the safety protocols of clients, and that is very important. However, Express has a few rules that may be stricter than those you encounter at your new workplace, because we care deeply about your safety. These specific Express rules are: do not lift anything more than 50 pounds. If an object exceeds that weight, get help. The maximum working height you are allowed is 6 feet off the ground. Do not perform any excavation or trench work in an area more than 4 feet or 1 meter deep. This is generally equivalent to the height of your waist. You are not permitted to work on scaffolds, and you are prohibited from working within confined spaces, including crawl spaces and attics. Remember to report to Express if your job duties change from the original assignment. Always use these Express rules on any job you're placed, even if the client has different rules for their employees. If you feel pressured to break any of these guidelines, contact your Express office. As I said, this video is only the first step in your safety training. Each company you work with will have an individual safety policy, just as we do at Express. All job-specific hazards will be communicated by your supervisor at your new workplace. You should always follow the strictest interpretation of any rule or policy you were given. Express believes in you. Most importantly, Express believes in a safe you and a safe workplace. Because when a workplace is safe, workers are more efficient, more successful, and more confident in their abilities. That's why we require you to report all unsafe conditions to your Express office. We'll work directly with the client to correct the situation. It's part of our promise to ensure every Express associate is safe in every workplace. At Express, your personal safety is paramount. We know rules and regulations can be cumbersome, but we do it because we deeply care about your well-being. Keeping these lessons in mind will help you have a long and healthy working career, and it's our distinct mission to help. Best of luck on your new endeavor, and please, be safe out there.